Good morning, Bold for Christ family. I want to share something that the Lord showed me in a dream that I had in the wee hours of this morning. Now, this dream came after I had prayed and asked God to show me something with this certain person that was a part of my life previously, right? Show me what this connection is all about, because I never want to move on my own accord. I don't want to go into the next season not knowing. So I'm just like, help me discern what I need to know for this next season, for these next steps, right? So God gave me this dream in the wee hours of the morning, okay? So in the dream, I was driving from wherever I lived, in which I don't know if I was driving from Texas or another place, but I was driving from wherever I lived to a different state, right? And I had been driving for hours. I knew I had been on the road for hours. So wherever I was driving to was hours away from me. And it was where this man that I was in a deep committed relationship lived at, right? So I took the long trip because he invited me to come. So he was expecting me. This wasn't just random, it was intentional. So I took the drive to go see him, right? Because he asked me to. So when I pulled up into the driveway, I noticed several cars in the driveway. One of them stood out. It was like an old faded, like SUV, like a faded red SUV, right? And I knew it belonged to his ex-girlfriend, woman that he was previously in a long relationship with, right? And I knew this immediately, that the car belonged to her, right? So I just stood there like, wait, why am I even here? Like, why is she here, but why am I here? Like, why would you invite me? And I'm just like, these thoughts are going through my head, right? Because again, he's the one that told me to come. He invited me. So this wasn't confusion on my part. This was me walking into chaos and confusion unknowingly. Okay, catch that. So I'm standing in the driveway and this brown puppy charges at me from across the street. It's cute, fluffy, it has the cutest face, but it's coming at me aggressively. So I grabbed a metal pole, and it was a pole that you get from a gate, like one of those silver metal gates around someone's house. That's the type of pole it was. So it was a gate pole. And I hit it a couple of times, not to hurt it or kill it, but to stop it from attacking me. So it sits down next to me, okay? So let me pause for a second, because there's a lot of new people to Bold for Christ. When God speaks to me personally, I'm not saying this is for everybody, but when he speaks to me personally and he shows me a puppy in a dream, for me, he's showing me prodigals, okay? Prodigals. Notice I said for me personally. You have to discern how God speaks to you. He started showing me this years ago, right? And what he explained to me is that a puppy will eat from anybody's hand. They're not trained. They're not submitted. They're just looking for a handout, right? But a trained dog, like a golden retriever, a trained dog will only eat from its master's hands, okay? So just like prodigals will eat from the world, from their wounds, from whatever feels good in the moment, right? Hence, the Lord uses puppies to show me prodigals. But those who are trained by the Lord is our master. We don't just eat anything. We don't sit at everybody's table. We're selective because we know who our master is. So I just wanted to throw that out there before someone's like, wait, what? What happened? This is just how God speaks to me, okay? Complete parables, but this is how he's trained me. So back to the dream. So the puppy's now sitting next to me after I hit it a couple of times. And I'm still standing in the driveway, like feeling all kind of emotions, mainly confusion and discomfort. And then people start to come outside from inside of the house, right? It's the man I had been in a relationship with previously. He comes out, his mom comes out, and this other woman who had also been in a relationship with him before previously, okay? Before me and him even got together, she had been in a relationship with him previously. And I immediately try to hide behind a chair because I don't want them to see me. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like, why am I here? This is too much. This is not peace, it's confusion. And they notice me because the puppy kind of moves towards them. Like the puppy starts walking towards them. So they turn around and look, and of course they notice me. And the man who I was previously in a relationship with, he looks at me and he's like, I saw you on the cameras, because he had cameras inside of his house, and he had like this smirk on his face. Like he thought it was funny, but he wasn't laughing. But he's like, I saw you on the cameras. So I'm looking at him like, you invited me. And I said this to him, like, you invited me and you're here with not the last person that you were with, but this person that you were with long time ago, right? And it was just chaotic, y'all. It was chaotic and just dishonoring. So then I remember needing to use the restroom. Okay, so I go inside of the house and he's in the bathroom, standing in the mirror, grooming himself, trimming his face, and I'm waiting to go in, right? And I do want to say something. When I saw the ex and she saw me, she was calm in the chaos, okay? She just stood there like it was normal to her. Catch that. So anyway, he finishes grooming himself in the bathroom, and I finally go in, and it's not filthy, but it's not clean either, right? It's not clean enough for me to feel like I can sit on the toilet, pee, and just, you know, get everything out in a comfortable way. So what do? I kneel over the toilet and I pee so that I can release myself and get out of there, right? And I remember thinking, like, do I drive all the way back home, hours away, because I just took this long drive, or do I find a hotel, rest, and leave in the morning, because that trip had taken a lot out of me. Now there was more to the dream after that, but I'm going to stop right here and explain this, because this is very, very significant, and God is really speaking. So let's get into it. Pull out your notes in your notebook. Okay. So what the message is overall, what the Lord is saying is, do not unpack where you can't even pee. Okay. Do not unpack where you can't even pee. And this one thing is going to make sense for this entire dream. Okay. I'm going to break it down for you and share exactly what this dream means, but do not unpack where you can't even pee, where you can't even release yourself. Okay. Some of y'all are trying to settle in places that are spiritually unclean, emotionally unsafe, and atmospheres where you can't even release what's inside of you. And this is not about you urinating, okay? Catch it. Do not unpack where you can't even pee, okay? This is for those that are trying to make a home in spiritually unsafe places, spiritually unaligned places, okay? And I know many people, this is who it's for, okay? This is who it's for. But do not unpack where you can't even pee. That's huge. That's really huge. So, like I said, this came after me asking God to show me clarity about a connection and what the next steps are. So let's get into it. The drive, the effort, and the emotional investment, okay? In the dream, I was driving from where I currently live to where this person lives, right? Like I said, I didn't know if I was driving from Texas or somewhere else, but I just knew I lived hours away from this person, right? So I was driving across state lines to see this person that I was previously in a relationship with. They invited me, he expected me, and I made the trip, right? The drive symbolizes the emotional, spiritual, and mental investment that you make when you're pursuing what you think is aligned with God's will. It wasn't a detour. It was intentional effort. But just because you make the effort doesn't mean the destination is safe. Okay, God will always keep you safe, but it does not mean that destination is safe. Okay, I pull up and there's cars on the outside, and this old red faded SUV sticks out. And I know that it's his ex's, right? It represents past covenant, guys, past covenant. It was a faded red color modeled SUV. It belonged to someone that he was in a relationship with before me. right? Prophetically, I know people like to say red, the blood of Jesus, great, but red can also symbolize passion, war, or sin. And this old red car shows his past relationships, emotional baggage, and spiritual soul ties that are still present and parked right in the front of his heart, okay? They're not gone. They're not surrendered. They're lingering in the driveway of his heart. They're still there, right? And I remember thinking to myself, like, why, what am I doing here? Like, why would he, invite me here, right? Whoever this is for, you are entering places still filled with spiritual clutter. Places that invite you in, but do not make room for you. Places that invite you in, but do not make room for you, okay? The brown puppy, prodigal spirit. As I stood in the driveway, I was trying to make sense of what I was seeing, right? The brown puppy charged at me from across the street. It was cute, but it was coming at me aggressively, y'all. So I picked up a metal pole from a gate and hit it. Again, not to hurt it, kill it, or anything, but just to stop it. And it worked. The puppy just sat down next to me, okay? Again, in my dreams, puppies represent prodigals, right? Because a puppy will eat from anyone's hands, right? It's hungry. If I offer a puppy a food, it's going to take it. It's untrained, right? It doesn't have discernment. It follows feelings. It follows feelings. It responds to whatever looks good. Again, but a trained dog is only going to eat from its master's hands and its master's hands only. Where its masters tell him to eat from, it'll eat from it. Where a master says no, that the trained puppy's going to listen, right? They've been taught to be surrendered and disciplined, right? So the puppy in this dream was symbolic of the spirit behind the person that I actually came to see, right? He looked harmless, but the spirit was untrained. He looked harmless, but the spirit was untrained. Hear this in the back. He responded in aggression, not discernment. That's prodigal behavior, okay? I grab a gate pole, one of those silver poles from a gate, and I hit it twice, right? A gate represents boundaries, spiritually, emotionally, relationally. God was showing me, you no longer entertain what comes at you out of order, even if it looks innocent. The gate pole was a weapon of discernment. It was me using what God had taught me to protect my peace, to stop the prodigal behavior from having unchecked access. Just because it's cute, fine, tall, dark, and handsome does not mean that it's safe. Just because it's familiar does not mean that it's holy. You can't let puppies, prodigals, knock you off balance just because they look good, they look harmless, they look kind. Okay. As I'm outside, I told you people started to come outside. It was this man, his mom, his ex that he had a past relationship with, past soul tie with. And I try to hide behind a chair because I didn't want to be seen. Not out of shame, but just the atmosphere was out of order. I just wanted to get out of there. So he sees me and he says to me, I saw you on the cameras, right? I saw you on the cameras. And he had like this smirk on his face. It wasn't like he was laughing, but you know how someone just has like this nonchalant smirk that you just want to knock off their face, if I'm being honest, but it was like a smirk, right? So he had seen me the whole time if he saw me on camera, yet he never came out to meet me, to greet me, to welcome me, right? He saw me, but he did not cover me. He was aware of my presence, but never prepared for my purpose. He was aware of my presence, but never prepared for my purpose. Okay? Being seen, guys, is not the same as being protected. Awareness is not the same thing as alignment. Some of you are in connections where you are watched closely, but you're not valued. You're visible, but you're not covered. You're being observed, but no, this person is not coming to protect your presence. Okay? Y'all catching that? Something's in my eye. Ooh, okay. So the woman from his past, she was calm watching the whole thing, okay? She had peace and chaos, okay? She just stood there next to him, unbothered, silent, and comfortable. Meanwhile, I'm like asking him, like, you're messing with her? Like someone from your past, right? I'm like, you're in the house with someone from your past relationship, a past covenant, and you invited me into that? She's calm, right? She represents people that have grown comfortable in confusion when it comes to this person. People who are at peace in polluted atmospheres and environments. Obviously, that wasn't me, right? These people normalize spiritual residue. They coexist with dysfunction and they call it love, okay? But you're not called to adapt to chaos. I'm not called to adapt to chaos. You're called to expose it, discern it, and leave it behind, okay? Hence, she's calm, just watching me. She didn't say one word, but I'm like calling him out, right? So I need to use the bathroom. I walk inside and the man that I was previously dating was in the bathroom grooming his face or doing something to his face in the mirror. I don't know, fixing his face. He was focused on how he looked, which is surface level maintenance, okay? Not internal, not spiritual, surface level maintenance, right? But the environment of the bathroom was dirty, y'all. It wasn't filthy. Like I said, it wasn't disgusting, but it wasn't clean enough for me to sit on the toilet or to feel comfortable in that space at all. So I knelt down and I peed, relieved myself so I could leave, but there was no comfort in my release. There was no comfort in my release. Catch that. There was no comfort in my release. Okay, the bathroom is a place of vulnerability. Emotionally, spiritually, and physically, you're able to release there, right? You can sit down comfortably and release what's in you, okay? But in this case, it was unsafe for me to be vulnerable in this dirty space, right? He was focused on his appearance, not the atmosphere. He looked clean, but his house was not clean enough for my soul to rest. Y'all better catch that. Y'all better catch that. There was no place for me to release or be vulnerable in this space. He was comfortable in it, but I would never be, okay? And I remember thinking, like, should I get a hotel and stay overnight and then get back on the road? Or should I just, like, leave, right? I was tired. That was a long drive. But the environment that I was in, it wasn't holy. It wasn't comfortable, right? It wasn't. And a part of that is like God saying, you don't have to rest in a place where you can't even release. You don't have to stay in a space that hasn't been sanctified. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to turn around and go back. Go back where God has you. Go back to where God has you. Don't unpack where you can't even pee. Don't unpack where you can't release, okay? At the end of the dream, it shifted to Mary, one of my friends in real life. She called me, right? And she was talking to me and telling me that she needed my help moving. And she was in the same city and state that my ex was in, right? And she's like, I can't pay you money to help me, but I'll give you food stamps to get food, right? This is really big, guys. Mary represents those who are ready to move, right? Who are spiritually hungry. And though they may not be able to pay you in dollars, they can pay you in spiritual fulfillment. They can feed your soul. They'll feed you as you pour into them, okay? So that was God redirecting me that all things will work for our good, right? This trip was about revelation, not romance. So he's like, now that you've seen the truth, go to where you're called, not tolerated. Go to where you can pour into other people and they'll pour back into you. You may have driven far. You may have shown up in love. You may have said yes to the invitation, but God is saying, just because they asked you in doesn't mean that they're prepared for your presence. Don't unpack where you can't even pee. If the atmosphere is not spiritually clean, if the house is still filled with old soul ties, if the spirit is still untrained, if the person is still fixing their image in the mirror, fixing their face, but not cleansing their heart, don't sit, don't stay, don't settle. You're not being dramatic. You're being discerning. You're not being weak. You're being wise. And if God showed you the dirt, that means he's protecting your destiny. Don't unpack where you can't even pee. Take your boundaries, take your discernment, and take your exit. And it doesn't mean he's saying they'll never be ready, like they'll never be prepared and aligned with what God has for you. But this is somebody's answer for what they've asked God about. Allow God to give you new wine in new wineskins. And whatever he needs to do with them, he's going to do it with them. If they're meant to be in your life, God will send that person back, as he's told you before. If they are a choice for you, you will still have that choice. But right now, there's still old covenants, old soul ties, old relationships parked right in the front of their hearts. They're still there. And they're comfortable in the chaos. You've grown too much to be comfortable in chaos. You've grown too much to be comfortable in confusion. That's not your story anymore. Used to be the old you. It's time to reintroduce yourself. That's not your story anymore. Go to where you're welcomed. Go to the places where you can show up and you're covered, you're good. You can release. You can pour into other people. I hope this blesses somebody. Do you have a meeting? Oh, I thought they just sent me a meeting. Y'all, my computers are up. I thought they just sent me a meeting request. I was about to say, excuse me. It is Wednesday. But that's it. That's all, y'all. I love you, and I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk soon.